Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for the brand new studio album from Skid Row called The Gang's All Here. It's their sixth studio album and first new studio album in 16 long years, and we're going to dive into it here in just a bit. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you will be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with a special review for the brand new Skid Row album. Long gestating, 16 long years we've been waiting for this thing here. The Gang's All Here. So, jump back a little bit here and give you a little bit of history. The band itself formed in 1986 in New Jersey. And of course, guitar player Dave "Snake" Sabo was good friends with John Bon Jovi. And I always thought this pact was cool that they had made when they were growing up, that whichever person got signed first would help the other one. So John Bon Jovi, true to his word, did help Dave Sabo and his band Skid Row get signed. And they were then ultimately signed and released their debut album in 1989, the self-titled release. And, you know, initially upon release, that one didn't like explode out of the gates or do anything there, but it did go on to sell 5 million copies and become one of the biggest records of the glam metal era. And part of the reason I wanted to mention that one and focus on that one is that, like this new album here, that one there brought in their lead singer at the tail end of recording that, and he didn't really get to contribute much to it in that regard. So I know a lot of people are saying, and I've kind of been on the fence about this myself, that bringing in the singer so late in the game, is he really a member of the band or just a hired gun at that point? But, you know, Sebastian Bach was that same way on the debut and going forward, and maybe here on this new album we have Erik Gronwall coming in. Now, he is from the band, or formerly from the band Heat, and so he came in when the album was near done, recorded his vocals, I think he said in 3 days or something like that, and then he is giving us this fantastic album here. So that's where we're at. That's what we want to touch on here now, is this album called The Gang's All Here. As I mentioned, sixth studio album, 10 tracks, 41 minutes. So, you know, after waiting 16 long years for a full-length studio album, we only get 10 tracks, 41 minutes. But in this particular case, I will say this album is all killer, no filler. It is an amazing album. Right off the bat, I'm not even going to wait to tell you that at the end of this thing. I'm just jumping right into it. Easily, in my opinion, this is their best album since Slave to the Grind. It is really, really good. Doesn't sound like Erik Gronwall came in at the tail end. It really sounds like this is a band who is gelling, firing on all cylinders. You know, at some points on here, because the big thing about Skid Row has always been Sebastian Bach, his amazing vocals and so forth. When he hasn't been in the band, everybody is compared to him. Of course, Erik is going to be compared to him as well. But I have to say, this guy here is the closest and most interesting vocally since Sebastian Bach. Now, I don't think anyone is on the level of Sebastian Bach. So we right off the bat have to acknowledge that and say, okay, this guy here is not Sebastian Bach, but I'm okay with that. There are points and times within that that I say, you know, he's doing something as good or interesting as what Sebastian Bach would have done had he been brought back into the lineup at this point here. So I think they have done a really good job at who they've selected to be their front person going forward. And I just have to say, I hope Erik sticks with them for a good long time, at least to make several albums, and for it to not take 16 long years between releases of albums. And some of you guys may have already be thinking this or wanting to quickly type and comment and point this out. But yes, I'm aware that Skid Row released 2 EPs as part of the Worldwide Rebellion series that was sort of a concept album, if you will, and they put those out. They're just not full-length albums. They were 4 or 5 tracks of, you know, new studio material, which were great, done by Johnny Solinger, who did do 2 albums with the band, Thick Skin and Revolutions Per Minute. But the last full-length album being Revolutions Per Minute, which came out in 2006, here we are, 2022, getting this beauty of an album. And, you know, I have to say the song structure, the style of it, this album here fits right between the debut album and Slave to the Grind. Slave to the Grind got a lot heavier. The debut album fully enveloped right in glam metal. And I know a lot of people like to argue, oh, Skid Row is not a glam metal band, etc. Well, I understand that they rose above that and grew past it on subsequent albums like Slave to the Grind and Subhuman Race and so forth. But when they came out, they were full on glam metal. At least that is my opinion. That's the opinion of a lot of people out there. The debut album was well versed in that. And this album here is great because I think it bridges that. It definitely throws back to that glam metal era. It's got some heavier moments in it, but it doesn't go as far as Subhuman Race, which I think just threw all of that away and alienated a lot of fans and so forth. So this one here is kind of the best of both worlds. You get a lot of that good glam metal stuff off the debut, but you've also get a little bit of the heavier stuff off of Slave to the Grind. And like I said, all killer, no filler on this thing. 10 solid tracks. Now, maybe my only one complaint on it, or maybe two complaints is, one, I think it's a little short at 41 minutes. 10 tracks for me is just the bare minimum to what you can call a full-length studio album. I know there's other ones, and if you're a prog band, you know, you could have 3 songs for all that matters. But in this case, I would have liked to have seen 12 tracks on here and a solid 45 or 50 minutes for this length of an album, partly due to how long we've waited here. But the album itself could use a little bit more of the sort of peaks and valleys on it. This thing is firing on all cylinders all the way through, and for those of you that like the rock songs, this thing is chocked full of 9 rockers on here. And the one ballad isn't even like a full-on ballad. It is definitely power ballad, and maybe even a little bit more closer to the rock vein than even a straight up power ballad. So this thing here, really, really amazing. And while we're talking about that, because we're just going to move right on into discussing some of the songs, but track number 9 is the one that I was referring to as the power ballad that's on here, October Song. And it's a really good one. And it's, to me, in the vein of songs like Quicksand Jesus and Wasted Time and stuff like that. You know, In a Darkened Room, those sort of type of songs. But, you know, nowhere near that. I don't think that they have quite peaked at doing that. That's why I say this is the best album since Slave to the Grind, but it's great. And so just, you know, the band is doing great. Rob Hammersmith, this is the first full-length album that he's playing on, their drummer. He's sounding really good on this. All in all, the band definitely harkens back to their original material for this. So good job for them. So the title track and lead single, The Gang's All Here on Here, still my favorite song off of this thing. It is classic Skid Row in my opinion. It's track number 2, so I'm glad they didn't kick the album off with it. I love getting an album after they've released 3 or 4 singles from it in advance. Remember, this was announced 6 months ago, so we've lived with that song, The Gang's All Here, for 6 months. But that one, I've not gotten tired of. It's number 2 on here, so you do get a track before that, Hell or High Water, which is a really great opening track on here. Track number 3, Not Dead Yet, another solid track. But then we move into track 4, which is called Time Bomb, that one being a single also. And I have to say, when I first heard that, it didn't do a lot for me. It sounded a little too modern for me. But the more I listen to it, and in the context of the album, I really like that song. It has grown on me considerably. But you just keep going through this album here, and there's so many good tracks on this thing. As I said, good rockers, solid all the way through. You don't get a slower number, a ballad, until number 9, and then it finishes off with a great one on here called World on Fire. So there you go. Let's take a quick look at this. And I also have to say the band did a really good job on packaging, or the, you know, the graphic quality, I should say, of this. First up, okay, you know I don't like cardboard packaging, digipacks and stuff like that. We have that, okay, let's get past that. It's not a jewel case. But if you're going to do it as the cardboard packaging, you can see that they have done a reflective logo in Skid Row. I know there's a term for that where you do something and it's, you know, sometimes I call it embossed, but I know that it's not termed as such on there. But you've got that, so that's pretty cool. I do like the fact that we're seeing the backs of everyone with these flags. They do look like a gang. It sort of resonates what the album title is and so forth on here. And we're not focusing on any one member member or any one thing, and we are focusing on the band, so that's kind of a cool thing. And I showed you the back of this, just song titles over that same sort of flag logo. When we open it up here, we do get a cool color shot of the guys, something kind of very interesting going on within it, but I love that right away we're seeing the band. We get the booklet up front here, and then of course the CD and the back side of it, which I'll pull out, and you get the good Skid Row logo right on that. But let's take a look at this. So first thing I like about this is the booklet has a different cover to it than what is on the main front cover, and I like it when bands do that. I could have even accepted that as the album cover. I think that looks pretty cool. So we get in right away, we got the lyrics on here, and of course it tells us who wrote and did what on here. But we get another cool band shot, and it is a shot of the guys together. It's not something that's pieced together, so definitely showing that more band aspect. Then we get in here, we get some larger shots of each of the individual members and some more of the last two guys that's there and the back side of that. So bottom line on this album, as I've said, I think this album is really, really good. Best one since Slave to the Grind. I am 100% in this. I wasn't sure what to expect. A little on the fence and apprehensive going into it, but they have proved me wrong. And I think if you guys give this thing a listen, you too will be proven wrong with it. If you like those first two albums and you can get past the fact that Sebastian Bach is not part of this lineup and just listen to it, it is really, really solid. This album here has skyrocketed up my top 20 albums of 2022. We're going to see if it holds there until the end, but this thing here is a burner. Go out and check it out. I think you will really, really enjoy it. All right, everyone, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. As far as related videos, I am going to be doing an album ranking for Skid Row that'll post very shortly, so stick around for that and keep your eye out for it and see where this one places in the overall. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.